3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27. 30. Well, the candle just won't light. Maybe we could get a special effect in there. Let me try a little magic. TOTS working. Near enough. Where were we? Oh, yes, time for Creepy Cheapies here at the old Horror Hotel. Come on in and let's take a few minutes out to explore the fine art of Halloween masks. You know, that might be a little too much. I think maybe I better blow it out. If you know me, and you probably don't, one thing you know is that one thing I really like always is French fries. No, one thing I like, you know, is ice cream. No, what was I going to say here? Oh, I remember. One thing I always like is when modern day mask companies do reissues of old masks that are sort of call back to Halloween in America from decades ago. One such mask from the year 2024, and I love this thing. Your mileage may vary. I like it. Is the reissue of a 1977 Don Post Studios mask called Frankenstein 2001. Now, maybe by today's standards, you're thinking it should have more wrinkles or more detailing or more blood or something like that. But this is what the original looked like. And at the time, okay, if you were a mask buying person or a masquerade party goer in 1977 or thereabouts, you'd never seen anything quite like this before, with this clear plastic dome and his brain is visible in there. Wow. Now, many years have passed, and it's possible you've seen other masks that did like exposed brain things with their creative concepts and their designs, and you may have even seen an awful, awful, awful movie called Silent Night, Deadly Night 3, which featured Bill Moseley running around in a hospital gown and a brain under a bubble. The only brain involved with the film, coincidentally. But that has nothing to do with this guy. Frankenstein 2001 was sort of an answer to a Frankenstein mask, where it was felt there was a need after Don Post Studios' licensing agreement ran out with Universal, the movie company who owned the rights to Frankenstein, the Wolfman, the Mummy, the creature from the Black Lagoon, lots of monsters. So when the license ended, they tried to come up with new spins on the concepts. And one of the most outrageous was Frankenstein 2001, which of course in 1977 must have sounded like a long time from now. Come to think of it, today it seems like a long time from now, but in the other direction. Now this monstrosity is so close to the real original mask. Honestly, if somebody had just put it in my hands and said this is one from, you know, the original mold, I would believe it. It's that close. How is that possible? No, it's not actually from the original mold from 1977, but it was brilliantly resculpted anew by none other than Jordu Schell, one of the top monster sculptors living in the Milky Way galaxy as of today. And Jordu was the right man for the job because, for one thing, he appreciated the outrageous creepiness factor of the old mask and understood it, you know, that it was kind of Frankenstein from the future. That's pretty cool. But Jordu was one of the few artists, I think, out there who would be able to subdue and wrestle and beat his own ego into submission to such an extent as to allow him to resculpt it with as much love as is shown here. Because this really looks like the real thing. And you don't see any, oh, I'll make it look better stuff. No, it's really done with the greatest of respect for the original sculpture, which, by the way, was done by the famous Bill Malone, who sculpted some similar masks for Don Post back in the day, including the Overreactor, aka Nuclear Death, and the famous classic Eric mask, and a few others that have some similarities in their facial structure and design that kind of have the Bill Malone look. but it's to George Shell's credit, I think. This doesn't have the George Shell look. This has the William Malone look, and it's got every detail. I remember that silver panel thing on the back of the old masks, and this little scar where it's, instead of being a stitched up Frankenstein old-fashioned kind of scar, it's sort of grafted. It's like his head is grafted on. And if you're thinking the brain should be a lighter color, because it is a bit dark. It doesn't show up as wonderfully as it could if it was brighter. But again, wanting to stay true to the 70s, the originals did have gray brains like this, and everybody does refer to the brain as gray matter because brains are grayish in color. They could have made it lighter, but this is true to the 70s mask with the convolutions. And by the way, you know those squiggles in the brain, those squiggles? I don't know if you know this, but the official name for those is the gyri and the sulci, which is to say each puffy part is a gyrus, and each indent, each crease, each wrinkle is a sulcus. So in plural, they are the gyri and either sulci or sulci or sulci. I don't like to say it as sulci because it makes me think it would be one of Popeye's nephews in the old cartoons. You know, oh, here comes sulci, you know. So I prefer to say sulci in those many conversations I have in which I'm discussing the wrinkles in a person's brain. But the gyri being gray and the sulci being done in with kind of a blood red, that's what it looked like back in the day. It would be fun to paint these in other colors. It would be fun to see what he'd look like with a little greenish aspect and maybe a brighter brain and such. But this is what you want if you like classic masks and vintage Don Post creations. I believe these sell for about 60 bucks. And the dome is attached, and just like back in the Don Post eras, there's a little, what would you call that, a rivet, an eyelet, something like that, holding on the dome right there. And you could actually wear this thing. Wow. If you had one from 1977, it wouldn't be in this good a condition today. That's a certainty. So you'd have trouble, you know, doing anything with it. You can get one of these from Trick or Treat, and you could actually wear it or put it on a dummy mannequin body in your haunted house or your haunted psychiatrist's office or whatever it is you happen to be haunting, your haunted brain surgery clinic. Perfect, see? And as far as what he'd be wearing, you could go with anything from a bloody hospital gown all the way up to a traditional Frankenstein style black suit, or maybe a big black overcoat, kind of like the Christopher Lee Frankenstein monster wore from Curse of Frankenstein. That might look cool with him. Or he could be all bandaged like a mummy with just parts of his body showing because he's, you know, in the midst of some ghastly surgical process performed by a mad scientist who is so caught up in his work that he doesn't even notice that he's used one human ear and one whatever that is. One lumpy dumpling over there on that side, but that's what it looked like in the 70s, and that was one of the reasons this mask was so scary and frightening and horrifying, and didn't look like other masks back in the day. It really had its own identity and its own attitude, and that kind of vacant, tired look. No, not me. You have the vacant, tired look. Yeah. And that one ugly tooth. And whatever sort of damage has happened here, I'm not sure what happened there. I don't know if that's just rosacea or if that has to do with too much electricity building up in certain parts of the face during the experimentation. Maybe the lightning struck and his face caught fire. Who can say? But anyway, big recommendation for the Trick or Treat. Awesomely cool reissue of the 1977 Bill Malone Frankenstein 2001 mask as resculpted for you for the 2024 lineup from Trick or Treat Studios. Do we have anything to add to that? We do? What? Oh, of course. Stay tuned now for an end screen.